So one of the biggest struggles when learning how to improvise is sounding musical. We learn about all these scale shapes, so we go ahead and learn them all up and down the fretboard, oftentimes the pentatonic scales, and then we go ahead and improvise using them, only to find that we sound pretty linear, our playing sounds pretty linear, and there's not like a strong sense of musicality, and it can be very frustrating. So then we go down the YouTube rabbit hole trying to find the solution to our problem of not sounding musical. And one of the first things you will come across is learning licks. This is something I've talked about on my channel before. And then we think, how many of these am I going to have to learn? Do I have to learn 100 new licks? Do I have to learn 100 licks in every single key? And we second guess if this whole improvising thing is really for us. But the good news is, you don't actually have to learn 100 licks in 12 keys. It's all about just making the most out of the licks you've already learnt and repurposing them, and how to get the most bang for your buck out of every guitar solo you learn or every new lick you learn. So I'm going to show you my 5-step process to do this, and not only will you have a whole bunch of new ideas you can use when improvising, they'll probably sound more original than if you just rip off a lick note for note from something you've learnt online. So first off, here's a brief overview of what the 5 steps are, and then we'll put it into practice. So step 1, you have to learn the lick very proficiently. Step 2, you got to figure out what key it's in. Step 3, figure out what scale it's using or what shape it's using. Step 4, we're going to move it to different keys. And step 5, we're going to workshop it and come up with our own variation. Now for the purposes of this video, we're going to apply these 5 steps to the intro solo from Thriller's Gone by B.B. King. So first of all, I need to go through the solo and actually learn how to play it well. This means playing it with rhythm, with accuracy, and just overall technical proficiency, because it's very hard to be creative with music or anything really if you're struggling with just the actual mechanics of doing it. It means too much of your cognitive resources are being taken up by just the actual playing of it rather than trying to be creative. So I'll play just the first 3 bars in case you're not familiar with the song, so you get an idea of it. So that's the first little phrase in that riff. So now that I've learned that first little bit, I'm actually going to take an even smaller chunk to take through this 5-step process. Especially when you're first doing this, you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. So just take one small phrase out of the solo you've learned. So I'm going to take just these first 5 notes here, which would be this. That would be my first phrase. So now that I've chosen a lick from the solo that I want to workshop, we move on to step 2, which is identifying the root note or the key that the song is in. Now there's a few ways you can figure out the key of the song. The first way is you have the song playing and you just play notes on the low E string, and you play along here until you find a note that sounds like home. Now, I'm not going to play the song in this video because it'll get copyrighted, so I can't really do that example. The second way is if you look at the chord progression within the song, oftentimes the first chord in the song is the tonic or the key of the song, but not always. For example, if you had a chord progression like C, G, A minor, F, the key of that would be C. But the easiest way is just to Google it. So if I just go on now and type in what key is Thrill is Gone by B.B. King, and there we go, B minor. So now that we've done step 2, which is learning the key of the song, we move to step 3, which is just figuring out what scale it's using or what shape is being used. So first off, we're just going to play the minor pentatonic scale in the key of B minor, starting with pattern 1. So that would be shape 1 of the pentatonic scale, and as you can see, it doesn't actually fit with the lick that I'm using for this process, because my lick is up here. And while it shares some notes, it's not the same position on the guitar. So then I'll move over to pattern 2 of the pentatonic scale, and play through that. Now I can see that that is what this lick is using, because all these notes here, these are the notes that are used in that first phrase from the solo. Right? It's using those top 2 strings in pattern 2 of the pentatonic scale. So now I'll write above here, pattern 2. So now that I know that this lick is using pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic scale, I'm going to try take it around to a few different keys. So let's say I wanted to play this in the key of G minor. Okay, I know my pattern 1 is here in the key of G minor. So my pattern 2, which the lick is using, is going to be over here. So now I know, okay, this lick starts on the second note of the B string of pattern 2 and does that. So that's how I play this lick in G minor. So I found my pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic and then played that same lick. Cool, let's try one more key. Let's try the key of D minor. Okay, so first I find pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic scale, which is over here. I work my way up. Okay, and then I play that lick in the key of D minor now. So that's step 4, is just getting familiar with moving into different keys. So now that we know what key our lick's in and what scale it's using, what shape it's using, here's where the magic happens in step 5. This is where you start to come up with your own variations using the framework of the original lick. So I'm going to take that same lick and I'm going to put my own twist on it. So the first thing I'm going to do is take that same lick and I'm going to change the last note. This already will give it quite a different sound. And in terms of what notes I can choose from, I can choose any notes that are in that same scale shape, okay? Pattern 2 of the pentatonic scale, because I know that they're all going to fit. Now I actually have a loop recorded of just a B minor chord, which is the tonic of the key we're in, just to give it some context. So if I play my original lick over this from the song, right, that would be the original. Now I'm going to change the last note. Right, sounds a bit different now. All I did is play the 10 on the high E, which is a note in pattern 2, instead of the 10 on the B string, which is also in pattern 2. Try another one. Right, I actually added a note on the end there, but it was one within the scale. I'll try a different note on the end. Right, so that time, I pause this, I played the 12 on the high E again instead of the 10 on the B string. So right off the bat, now I have all these variations. And now I'll be a bit more creative with it. I'll mess around with different rhythmic ideas, doubling up notes, adding bends, but keeping the framework the same, using the same scale shape and the same, I guess, contour of the melody. So let's give this a go. So I'll start with the original. Now some variations. Right, you can see how there's so many different ideas you could come up with that. So I was just using that same pentatonic shape again, but messing around with lots of variables, whether that be rhythm, targeting different notes at the end, adding bends in. Just be creative with it is the idea. And this way I haven't had to learn 100 new licks. I've just taken one lick, analyzed it, figured out the scale, and come up with my own variations. And just like in step 4, you can take these same ideas to different keys. You know, if I were to play in G, for example, okay, and I wanted to play my BB King style lick, so I find my pattern 2. Here's pattern 1, pattern 2 up here, and I just remember, this is my original. Now I come up with my variations. Right, Right, now I have a BB King style lick, but it's my own and it's not a complete ripoff. So I'll do one more example in the song and just briefly go through the 5-step process. So we'll take this little phrase here. So again, I already know the song is in the key of B minor. So let's see what scale shape these notes would fit into. So if I play pattern 1 to begin with, right, I can see these notes all fit into pattern 1. So cool, this is just a lick from pattern 1 of the pentatonic scale that I can workshop and come up with some ideas for. So if I put my looper on again, or loop something in B, so first I'll play the lick as is. 3, 4. Okay, now I'll come up with some variations. Right, so again, just taking the contour or the idea of the melody and making it my own, messing around with bends, messing around with different notes within the scale shape. And again, I can transpose this to any keys I want. Now, when you're first doing this on your own, I really suggest you do it with blues music because it tends to be pentatonic based and it makes it a lot easier to analyze. However, if you do come across notes that don't fit to the pentatonic boxes or scales that you're familiar with because your theory knowledge isn't quite where it needs to be to understand that, it's fine. There's a couple of options. The first option would be to just replace the note with a note you know belongs in the scale. For example, in B minor, if I had my scale shape here and then this note was here, say if I just make up a lick. If I don't know what that note is and I don't know how to use it, I could just replace it by maybe playing this note twice. Right, a note I know will belong to the scale. So that's one option. The other option, and one that I actually recommend more, is that you just use that note, but just accept you don't know exactly how it functions for right now. But try it over a few different backing tracks and you'll start to intuitively just learn the character of that note. And you'll start to get it and you'll start to develop an ear for it when you hear backing tracks you're playing over, whether it'll fit or not. And you just got to trust in the process a bit for this, but it's just ear development basically. And then as your theory knowledge expands and your note knowledge, then you can kind of go back and figure out exactly what that note would be. What I'm going to do now is head over to my Patreon page and we're going to look over the Nothing Else Matters solo by Metallica because this does have some outside notes in it, whilst mostly being pentatonic based. And the link for my Patreon is in the description box below. Otherwise, thanks for watching again. I hope this was helpful and let me know if you have any questions in the comments below and I'll get back to you. So thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.